morning. We've got everything configured on the ground. And good morning. Expedition 58, we are ready to begin. We wish you guys a good work week ahead.
So, what do you say we get started?
All right.
When you sit on the launch pad, at that moment, you have to be at peace with everything in your life. You want to make sure that everything's in order and that people you love know that you love them, and people that you've wronged know that you're sorry. I was just Anne. It is the most rawly human that I've ever felt. And now you're wearing clothes that have been picked out for you. You're going on the 6-month trip and you're not even taking a toothbrush with you.
Good evening, David and Ian.
When we got to orbit, it was nighttime, and all I could see was blackness. And as we're flying, I remember something catching my eye, and I look out and I see this thin blue line. You can just tell that it's curved. And I realized I was seeing my first sunrise from space. You're there. You're just there. And the joy is overwhelming.
Thank you for your hard work today. And with that, I enjoy the 2:30. Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Before being an astronaut, I was working as a family physician up in the Arctic in Canada. So I learned there the art of being self-reliant, and you're kind of responsible for everything. It's a bit like here in space. Between myself and my crew members, there's nobody else to turn to if we have a problem.
Station Huntsville on Space Ground 2 for David. Good morning to you. Just wanted to let you know that for your second...
A lot of the research we do up here is related to the way humans adapt to life in microgravity and in the radiation environments, in the isolation of a spacecraft, so that one day we can push the frontier even further and go to Mars.
Station Easton for and we wanted to verify the stowage did not interfere with the airflow from the duct.
And it's mainly about learning how to live in space with our organism that has evolved on Earth over millions of years in the presence of gravity. And when you remove that, everything changes. It affects everything in your body. And it affects everything in your body in a way that resembles normal, real disease.
Huntsville would like to talk to David. We have that. Copy that.
Adapting to life in space, it's been a process. Got here initially, I was crashing everywhere. I was losing everything because everything floats away from you if you don't put it in your pocket or use Velcro to tie down or maybe an elastic bungee. And I was looking at our colleagues who had been here several months, wondering how can they be so efficient and so in control of their movements. Well, lo and behold, after a couple of weeks, I became myself, found myself surprisingly to be very efficient now moving around. So your body can adapt to this strange environment of microgravity.
If time allows, you can go ahead and proceed with the other steps.
And then there's a strange mental disorientation that takes place because of the fact that we have 16 sunrise and 16 sunsets a day. It's kind of hard to know what time it is rather than looking at your watch. So I had to adapt to that new way of tracking time just by events, as opposed to this sense of lighting outside that we're used to living on Earth.
Good afternoon, Ian. Welcome to the Ponds program. Okay, so in step 2.8, we're going to reduce the water from 60 milliliters
Some of the coolest days that I've had are the days where I go through and I do all these tasks and I get to the end of the day and I realize I haven't thought about floating at all. It's become my new normal. We can flip from module to module and we can be upside down. It doesn't really matter because we've created this now 3D model of the inside of the space station in our minds that we can navigate just as easily as you can navigate walking from your house to your parking spot.
Hey David, if we could borrow your time for a couple moments, we need your help repowering the Express Rack 1 laptop.
The Express Rack 1 laptop is booted up.
We exercise every single day on space station.
We're seeing good power draw here.
Even on the ground, I'm pretty physically fit, but there are days where I just don't feel like going to the gym, and I just don't think that you experience that here as much. Your body craves that exercise and that weight. When astronauts first started flying long-duration missions, astronauts were losing the same amount of bone density in a month that an osteoporotic 80-year-old woman was losing in a year. And we had to come up with a countermeasure. We talk about the International Space Station as a proving ground for future deep space exploration. Now, imagine if we had skipped this proving ground and we sent people to Mars and then we discovered it and we couldn't fight against it.
We do 2 hours of exercise a day. 1 hour of cardiovascular type exercise, and then an hour of weightlifting or resisted exercise. To keep your upper body, your back, your spine, everything strong. And when you come back to Earth, you still know how to walk. In my case, I have young children. I hope that I can come back to Earth and be able to carry them on my shoulders still.
And as you guys remember, this is a 50-minute exercise pre-breathe, 10 cycles of 5 minutes.
I prepared for this space flight by training to be an Army officer. I've been in just about 20 years now. I spent 15 months in combat flying Kiowa Warrior helicopters. 15 months in Iraq will teach you how to work in a team whose lives are in your hands. It teaches you how to not get complacent, how to recognize complacency. It teaches you how to operate in an environment where you're there for so long that you have to be able to relax. But there always has to be part of you that's ready to surge. You can't work so hard that you're exhausted at the end of the day and you have nothing left to give, because at any moment in Iraq, flying in a helicopter, and here on the International Space Station, we can get a single alarm and suddenly we're not watching a movie on a Friday night with our crew. We're actually getting on our vehicle and flying back to Earth.
The most dangerous thing would be to be hit by a meteorite, lose our air. It could cause a fire or a toxic chemical being released inside the station. That would also be a disaster.
Caller would like to talk to you about the EO target.
Begin monitoring for drift out.
At the bottom of the other 3 remaining. Like
Good evening, Expedition Pacific. Happy Hunter's Day, and we'll give you a call here shortly.
Thank you for everyone for the work over these last 100 days. Hard to believe it has been that long already. Certainly going to get busy here pretty quick.
The path to coming to space is really arduous. The learning to live on station has been a process, several weeks to get physically adapted, to understand how this place works, to be able to be functional. And then yesterday, 3 new crew members arrived. Our good friends, Nick, Christina, and Alexei.
We were following along.
This is a wheel that turns. Crews pass the baton to each other, keeping this amazing outpost of humanity functional and productive.
We'll have further words after the crew welcome ceremony, so you can head back down to NRM-1.
Heading back.
I can't believe this is happening. I'd made it. I'd made it for myself. I'd made it for my family. I'd made it for all the team that had trained us to get there.
after we had gotten into zero G, our little Soyuz, then there's a few steps the spacecraft goes to before it orients itself for executing the burn maneuvers that'll help us rendezvous with station. And then I opened the window, and out there, just almost everywhere, was the Earth. And it was so bright and so beautiful, and it was just such a perfect sphere. And I said, oh my gosh. I just said that out loud into the comm system, and then I realized, oh, no, everything's fine. It's just Earth.
Hey, quick question. Can we have you verify that the new crew has already made it through Node 1? You're good. Oh, nice.
When that hatch opened, felt very much like getting to see some long-lost friends that you haven't seen in a while. I've spent a lot of time in Star City training side by side with David and being able to get to know him. Anne and Christina and I are classmates, so we've been at NASA together from day one, 6 years now. It takes a lot to get here. In the big picture, I think that the astronauts got it easy. The personal sacrifices that are made aren't the people that are flying in space. It's all of the families that are on the ground. It's the families that have to sit there and watch you launch into space, wondering if it's going to go okay. It's the families that have to suffer your absence because you're training abroad for most of the 2 years leading up to your launch. It's the families that are in this state of constant vigilance while you're in space, knowing that we could have a serious emergency at any time. And so we're always at the tip, they're always in the front of their mind where they're thinking about us and our safety. And that's a strain, that's a burden, and that's a sacrifice that maybe they didn't sign up for. And I only hope that I can communicate to my wife and my boys the importance of the mission and to try to share some of this experience with them.
It really was an amazing experience coming through the hatch for the first time, and one of the reasons is that we've been training to be a part of life up here for so long. So it's a bit like walking into a movie set. All the movies you've seen about living life up here, all the mock-ups we've been in on the ground when we train, they all came to life. So I think that was really the most overwhelming experience, was seeing this place come to life and that it actually exists and that I was now inside it for real.
Good morning, Christina.
Good morning, Mike. I am with you. Sorry for the delay there.
The first morning I woke up on the ISS, I just remember busting out in a huge grin when I did realize where I was and that I was floating. Really, the only difference between like laying down and being asleep and not being asleep is you're still floating, but you just open your eyes. My sort of bedroom on station, what we call our crew quarters, is actually tucked into the ceiling. So, to get into it, I would go like this and then, go up into the ceiling into my crew quarters. So that was obviously very disorienting my first couple days when I would come out of my crew quarters and have to figure out which way I was pointing and which way my feet should go and whatnot. So I actually just memorized the handrails that I had to go to, one in front of the other, and then knew that if I just did that, no matter how tired I was, no matter whether it was dark in the middle of the night or not, I would get to be feet down in the lab on my way to the most important place on station, the bathroom, should I need to go there in the middle of the night. So, you start out just kind of memorizing what you have to do, and then pretty soon your mind wraps itself around what's going on here, and you can just kind of feel your way around.
Station Houston on 2, airlock node 3 and node 1, smoke detection is...
The net is in front of the microscope, so we don't want to touch that rack. CVIS is on the motion isolators, vibration isolators, so we don't want to grab that, which is
They're so perfect though.
super tempting. They are. And you want to keep your legs together, and if you happen to kick something, I will say that turn around and look at what you kicked, because it's probably important.
Okay. Make sure it's not floating away.
Yes, and the sooner you can remap everything to be 3D, the quicker you'll be able to move through here. And your feet, it might be. It actually will happen quicker than you think, and you'll kind of remap everything in your mind, and your feet will automatically find a handrail kind of wherever you go. And I will tell you this, if your feet are stable, the rest of you is stable. So whatever you're working on, if you're struggling too much, just get your feet stable, but make sure it's not on a cable or anything else important. I've definitely looked down and been stabilizing myself on a computer cord, which doesn't last very long.
All right, cool. The senior crew shares tons of advice every day. In fact, I would say if they haven't gotten sick of giving us advice and help, it's only because they're the most patient people on or off the planet. We've had to respond to a couple pretty high-level technical issues. One category of those have been false fire events. Getting anything?
And with the unsafe recycling, can you make me see if the securities are around too?
You seen anything there? So we've had instances where a smoke detector has gone off and declared that there's a fire in some area. And we've had to respond to it, obviously, as if it is a real alarm. And each time that happens, you go into a heightened state of response, and you kind of start clicking on all gears, and your training kicks in.
With that, yes, we are ready to stand out from the fire dust.
Having these bigger events happen is a good reminder of how much we can rely on each other and rely on our training. So it's nice to see the team click into that gear and to know that we can respond in that way when we need to.
UTV at the time, and the UTV was just ramped up from 6 miles an hour to 10 miles an hour, and we have the upper. We copy that couple. We are working on the teaching story, so we'll get to that as soon as we can.
Anne and David and Christina and I, we had never done a spacewalk. So 1 week after we arrive and we're up to a full crew, the four of us have never been on orbit and witnessed somebody doing an EVA or witnessed helping prepare somebody to do an EVA. All we had was the training we brought with us on the ground. And so in that regard, it's four rookies up here trying to perform an EVA. And then you start to rely on each other, and we're double checking, and we're starting to really click as a crew, and it was just a really exciting time to step straight into a spacewalk like that.
Good evening, Expedition 59. Great work today. You had a very busy day, and it's been a really busy week, so great job across the board.
I really wish everybody on Earth could have the perspective that we have living up here. We are united by the dream of exploration and accomplishment, rather than being united by fear. If we have a common fear or a common enemy, that unfortunately is a strong uniting factor. But spaceflight shows us what we can accomplish when we are united by something other than fear. When we delve into that deep part of our human spirit that wants to explore and that wants to accomplish for all of mankind.
Airlock Fusion on 2, no response required. Hope you have a wonderful Friday night. It was a pleasure working with you.
Living on space station with 5 other people is really like living in a small family. You can't help but feel like these are your brothers and sisters. One of the really neat things about being up here are the nights that we just kind of say, hey, let's just get together and let's not talk about work. Let's pull out some of our food that maybe came up on care packages, maybe the food that we don't normally eat. And I find that that time is really meaningful. These are the other people that will, for the rest of our lives, be the only ones that really understand what we went through.
Maybe a little lemon.
I would have craisin on top. Get a little sweet at the end of it.
Oh, mint lifesaver.
Whoa.
A craisin with it. There might be something there.
I am all
Might be
for
like
it.
space.
Kind of like brie and chutney.
That's a good combo. All right. Who's gonna try that one?
Stacked real high though, so it's gonna be tough to like do a trick.
I'm just gonna.
There are some French shrimp, or that is actually.
I'm gonna hold the shrimp and take the olive off.
There's no way that goes.
Watch the shirt. Precious few.
It's a rare shirt.
Oh, you got it. Round 2.
Barracuda.
We really are like fish in an aquarium.
Thanks to the International Space Station, we have really solved a big fraction of the problems we need to solve before we can venture deeper into the solar system. We're more than just going to space for a dangerous trip like we used to. Now we come to space station and we live here. That's the mental step that I find most surprising in myself. I realize that after a few weeks here, this is my home. I can be productive. I can function. I can communicate the experience. That power of adaptation is one of the most beautiful aspects, of course, of the human mind. Right now, space station, we're camping in our backyard. If we move to the moon, that's like camping on a little mountain an hour's drive away. But our Everest, our big ambition is Mars. Salut Véronique. Bonsoir maman. Oui, c'est déjà la fin de la journée ici. OK. J'ai parlé au garçon hier qui était chez Marc. Il était vraiment trop content pour me parler. Oh, je vois les lumières d'Afrique du Sud, les lumières des villes d'Afrique du Sud. Là. On va passer le cap de Bonne-Espérance. Et on devine les lueurs vertes à l'horizon. On s'approche du monde des aurores australes. See our planet as a one beautiful, fragile spacecraft carrying all humans. It is slowly, day by day, changing me. I can feel it.
When you see everything that you've ever known and that's ever been important to you, you get this profound sense that the world is small, we are all reliant on one another, and we're all in this together.